Hello everyone! In this tutorial we will look at adjustment layers in Photoshop. First, I have a file open, and in this file I have two layers. One layer is for my background and the other one is my character. So if I click on this eye icon here, it will turn off and on. And if I wanted to make an adjustment on my image, I can go to Image and I can go to Adjustments. Then from this Adjustments menu I can choose any type of adjustments and click on it. If I want to quickly change my colors for my background, then I can click on Hue and Saturation, and by using this slider here I can make my colors change easily. Let's say I like this pink sky and clicked OK, and then continued working on this image so that I lost the chance to undo the changes. I cannot go back then. So normally when we use the image adjustments from here, those apply directly on top of the image, and that's why we need an undestructive method while we are using adjustments. There are two ways to find adjustment layers. First one is from the window menu. You can click on adjustments and a panel here opens. And if you click on any of these icons like Hue and Saturation, it automatically creates a new layer here. On top of the layer that I was on. And from the Hue Saturation panel again, I can use my sliders to change the image. And the second way to click this little icon here to see the various kinds of adjustments. And when you click on it again, a new layer is created. So I again go to Hue Saturation, and as you can see, another layer is opened up. And again, we have the panel which is open for us to use. So let's go back a few steps and look at this Hue Saturation adjustment layer again. So I'm back to my original image. Now I create a new Hue Saturation adjustment layer, and now I make a color change. I like the pink background. Now again I'm back to that, and since Photoshop creates a layer when we do these steps, the adjustments we create is on an individual layer, which means that any adjustment we can make can be turned on and off by clicking our eye icon here. And also it gives us the option to use the blend modes or opacity like this. Maybe I like this one, but to lower this effect I can go and use my opacity to bring back the colors. This is really helpful for any creative project, photography, painting, or graphic design. And we are not really affecting our original layer. It is another non-destructive method like layer masks. Last week I made a video about layer masks, and if you want to learn about layer masks, please check it out, because you can see layer masks with your adjustment layers. Actually, all adjustment layers come with a layer mask, as you can see here. This means that if I paint with black on this adjustment layer and it has this mask on, it will show through under this layer. So I can get my colors back by just painting with black here. how can we use this together? Let's say we showed our character to a friend and he said we should try some different color on the costume. I can control click on my center since I only want to make adjustment on it. Then I should select my layer also. And then go to Hue Saturation again. But this will change all my colors, which I don't want because it messes my skin colors also. I have to make a selection for the ones I want to change. Then let's delete this. And I will use my magnetic lasso to create a quick selection from this character's costume. I shift click to continue my selection. I want to add to my selection, that's why I shift click. And magnetic lasso doesn't work really well with this image because the colors don't have high contrast. But since I wanted to show it quickly, I chose this method. Now I have my selection complete and I can go to Hue and Saturation again and I can begin to change my colors. And if I don't like this option, I can always turn it off or explore more options by just using the blend modes here. Maybe I like this one and I can keep it that way. But until now, I only talked about Hue and Saturation. But when we click here, we can see many more options. So before I end this tutorial, I will go through each of them briefly. The first one is solid color. So when we click on it, Photoshop creates a layer filled with any color we can pick from here. And I can create a mask by control clicking on my character and with backspace, since my black is my foreground, with Alt backspace I can fill the area that is selected on my layer mask. And now I can separate my character easily. And then I can look at the blending modes and maybe I like pin light. And if I want to bring some of the colors from my original image, maybe I can lower the opacity a little bit. Let's close the eye of this one and look at the second one, which is the gradient. And gradient fill is just like solid color, but this time we can easily fill with a gradient. I can click on my gradient and change the colors by using these boxes. I can choose yellow or maybe orange, or I can add more color boxes. When we click here, there is a box and add a different color to it. Or if we don't like it, we can remove the box and I can click and drag this box to remove it. So let's close this. And we can also fill our layer with a pattern. I have made a tutorial on how to create your own patterns, but we can use the patterns available in Photoshop, so there are many available patterns. Let's use the water pattern here, for example, and we can get different effects by again using the blend modes. Let's say we like this soft light and we can lower the opacity and it gives us this texture. And let's close this one off, and then we have brightness and contrast. It is just to easily adjust brightness and contrast. For example, my sky is a little bit light. Maybe if I lower the brightness, this will really help for this image. So before and after, and I think it looks better now. So if I again use my selection from this layer and fill my layer mask with black, now my character is not affected by it, but since I like the background better, I can use this. Or I could, this is a long way actually, because I have these two layers separated, so I could have just moved this between these two layers, then I would have the same effect. Now let's close this one also and look at another adjustment, which is levels. It is another adjustment to add light or shadow. Dark slider means that you're going to change your shadows, and this middle gray slider means that you're going to change your middle tones, and the white slider means that you're going to change your bright areas. But there is another adjustment type which is very similar to levels, which is curves. So instead of a linear line where you can use sliders, you can use this curve to make similar effects, but it also goes up and down. But you can try to use this for changing your shadows or highlights too. Again, for adding light and shadow, you can use exposure, but this one has very dramatic effects. So if I go through this, it turns my image completely white, so I can just make little adjustments from my sliders. Okay, now next one is Vibrance. Vibrance is about having more vibrant colors or not, and saturation slider here can desaturate an image or add more saturated colors like this. So if I want to make my colors a little bit vibrant, maybe I can use this a little. Now we already used the Hue and Saturation to change color, but again we have the saturation slider here also, and we can add light, darkness or light from this slider. So if I add too much light, it will become white. If I add too much dark, it will become black. In color balance, using these sliders you can have different balances of color. Like when I click towards red, my image is going to get redder, or I can go to a more yellow image, or maybe a more bluish one. So it is going to change according to the colors we have in our image. And the next one is black and white. You can turn your image grayscale, but you have a say in changing which colors to have what kind of values. So if I want my reds to go darker, I can click on darker reds or lighter. Let's close the eye of black and white layer adjustment, and then we can go to Photofiltre. It is like using a filter for your camera. You can choose from different presets here, like adding a violet filter, and you can add density to it, or maybe we can choose a color directly on our own. And then we have channel mixer is for adjusting the RGB colors, red, green, and blue. And then we have color lookup. You can find some different effects under these presets here. So I have to close the eye of the channel mixer, and then we can look at all these different presets. So if you like any one of them, you can use them. There are many options. And then we're going to look at invert. Invert simply inverts your colors, so it can be really useful, like when you want your blacks to go white or vice versa, but other than that, I rarely use this. And then we have Posterize. It just gives this effect, like it removes some of your colors and makes this posterize effect like it is using some vector colors. So if I add levels, it is going to look like my image and it will not have many effects. But if we lower our levels, then you're going to get less colors and have a more successful effect like this. Now let's close the eye of this one and look at threshold. So it is creating completely black and white image while adjusting the amount of detail that you want to see. So this will work according to your image, and you can find the detail you like from here. Now let's close this and look at gradient map. It is a great tool for coloring. I have used it before on my grayscale to color tutorial. It uses the values of your image and colors according to a gradient you pick from here. So pick something like this, and you can have different effects by reversing, for example. And if you are adding more colors, you're going to have different effects. So around here somewhere you can change the colors for your midtones, and here for your lighter colors, and here for the shadows you can have a different color. For example, if I want my shadows to be red, I can choose that. We have at last selective color. You can choose your reds, for example, or greens, and then you can change the balance of all these colors here. And these colors are CMYK colors if you want to add more cyan to your image. For the greens, I don't have so much greens, so maybe if I pick reds it will have a better effect. So I can add cyan or remove cyan. I can add yellow or remove it, or I can add black. And we can use all these different effects together by turning them on and using different blend modes like these. So I think I covered all the Photoshop adjustments and talked about the benefits of using adjustment layers as a non-destructive method. So that's it for this tutorial, and thanks for watching.